Hello, and welcome back to the Big O podcast. This week, I have an amazing guest, Leesa Whisker. She is a style empowerment coach, and she is flipping amazing at what she does. She inspires me every single time I see her, speak to her, and I cannot wait to have a conversation with her about how we can embrace our true self. Hello, Leesa.
Hey Emma, I'm so delighted to be here with you. That was a
Oh.
very lovely introduction.
It's all true. Absolutely 100% true how I feel about you. Like I said just before we started recording, I got dressed especially for you today.
I very much appreciate that. I feel very honored. And I have to say, I know that listeners can't really see what you're wearing, but you look amazing.
Oh, well, this is it. And I mean, this is what our conversation is going to be all about today, is how things like style can just help us really truly embrace who we are. And it really, really can lift us, you know. So I'd love it if you could introduce yourself properly after my obviously wonderful introduction there. And tell us a little bit about you and what you do for anybody that hasn't come across you before.
Yeah, I'm Leesa Whisker. I am a true style empowerment coach. I've been working with image and identity for over 20 years. I'm originally from Northern Ireland, as you can probably tell. Worked for a long time in London, and then for about the last 8 years have worked purely online with clients internationally. And then for the last 4 years, I've been running the True Style Journey, which is an online program for women who are change makers and who are experiencing change to really reconnect with themselves and redefine themselves to catalyze a new chapter in life using style.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's so big what you do. And, you know, having personally experienced working alongside you for such a long time now. And I just love everything you do because you embody it yourself as well, which if you go across to Lisa's page, which we'll put at the end anyway, and I'll put it in the information bit on the podcast, you can just see Lisa's own transformation, and it's just beautiful to witness. And she's so inspiring. And change is, well, is the hot topic right now, actually. And I know a lot of the listeners are going through their own transition, um, because change is hard, right? It's really hard. And I think everything that we can do to support ourselves through a change, through a transition, can only help can
Yes,
only help us
absolutely.
become who we actually truly are. And something that I've actually realized last night was that I've kind of stepped into this new version of myself, and I'm at that point myself where I'm like, well, I'm not that person anymore, but I'm not embodying that person yet either. And it's this goo stage, isn't it? You know, when you're in that transition can be so difficult, and what you do supports so many women to work through that.
Yeah, you've described it so beautifully, Emma. And it's been really brilliant for me as well, working alongside you for so long, being, coaching together, and just witnessing each other's transformation is just incredible. And you inspire me all the time for your authenticity and your vulnerability and how well you express the process of transformation as you are going through it yourself. I think that's what's really magnetic about what you do with this podcast, which I'm a huge fan of myself. But yeah, you describe it really well when you're in that process of transformation where you're no longer who you were. You've started to shift away from that old identity, but you're not yet who you are becoming. You haven't really landed or arrived there yet, and there can still be actually quite a lack of clarity and confusion about who that person you're becoming is. And that in between space, that is called the liminal space of transformation. And it is the place of pure potential. It is a really juicy place. It is my favorite place. It's not a very comfortable place to be yourself. I don't really enjoy being there myself. But because I've worked with this process of transformation for so long now, with so many women, at least I can trust and relax into the process a bit more when I'm going through it myself. And it's a joy to guide other women through it because it's a really natural process. And when you understand the process and you have a toolkit, and of course, there's many different tools. The ones that I work with are True Style. Those are my tools, a way of releasing who you've been and a way of connecting to the woman that you're becoming, and then using it as a way to actually embody and catalyze that transformation, so you gently speed the process so you can really land and become the woman that you really wanted to be. So that's how True Style works with that process of transformation. And yeah, it's not easy, but actually we're built for this. We're built for change. We have been changing our entire lives. You know, if you think of yourself as like a 5-year-old and then as a 15-year-old or a 25-year-old, you know, we've all done change again and again and again. And the changes, you wouldn't even recognize yourself from some of those to the next one. So we're actually all really good at this, but because society hasn't really held up to us how natural this is and given us the guidelines and the rites of passage, which we might have had many generations ago, I think many of us are in the process of bringing that awareness back and the knowledge back and creating our own rites of passage so that we can journey through change in a much more empowered way.
Oh my gosh, there's so much in what you just said there. And you're right. I mean, this is something that I knew but didn't know. I knew subconsciously, didn't know consciously about that we are really good at change. So I very much have the philosophy that the only thing that is certain in life is change. So I 100% fully embrace change. What I forgot is that we're really good at this. Like, we're really fucking good at this. We have been doing this our whole life. And I feel like you are completely correct. We are presented with the idea that change is hard, because it is hard, but hard in a bad way, as though it's hard, so don't do it. So
Yeah.
we create this, whatever it is. It can be so for me it was several things. It was the security within my career, so 15 years in my career. It was my marriage, the ideal, what I should be doing, and there's many more things in that. And it took me a very long time to start transitioning into what I wanted. And in fact, it was easier for a really long time for me to forget about what I wanted and whether I was happy, because the change felt so big and so scary. And I thought I couldn't possibly ever live through that, that
Yeah.
it took way longer than it should have taken to get to that point in the first place, because I forgot. And it's just so good to hear that we are good at change. We are
Yeah.
good at change. We're designed to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, with like anything that our bodies and our psyches and our spirit is capable of so many things, but the things that you are trained in or practice at, they're the ones that will become more easy, like going to the gym. It's like training
Yeah.
muscle, isn't it? So these aspects of ourselves that we haven't received guidance in or become skillful at, we're like toddlers wobbling around trying to figure it out a lot of the time.
Mm,
And there's really no shame in that, but it is really wonderful when you can go through periods of transformation with the right knowledge, with self-love, and with sisterhood. And those are actually the 3 pillars of the True Style journey, because in all the transformations that I've been through myself, which are many, transformations of from girl to woman, becoming a mother, entering into menopause, going through depression and anxiety, moving to new countries, all kinds of things. There's so many transformations. And I've always found that when I've had good knowledge, being able to be loving towards myself and compassionate, and when I've had support, sisterhood support, I'm much more able to make the transformation that is required of me and to really grasp the opportunity that is presented, because often what we miss is the opportunity. Every transformation is actually presenting us a big opportunity to grow and evolve and ultimately to become more you. That's always the opportunity, but often we miss it because it feels so uncomfortable, and society's been saying, you got to find yourself and then stick that way, oh, I've lost myself. Like, yeah, you've got to, you need to regularly, all these things, or,
Yeah.
oh, they've changed. Yeah, no, it's terrible, isn't it? They've really changed. It's like, yes, they've changed. You're meant to change.
Hooray! They've
Yeah.
changed. That's it. And I mean, it's a shift in mindset, really, isn't it? That it is such a positive thing. We go through so many seasons in our life, and you're so right in saying that we get taught that sticking at the same thing, persevering, these are traits that are literally ingrained into us in school. And through the education system. And I know this from firsthand experience. I taught for long enough, and they are all very valuable traits. But the problem is they're taken, as we grow older, they're taken into the context of, okay, but that means that you need to stick in a marriage. You need to stick in this place in the world and make home, make roots there. And one big, huge, like mind-blowing realization that I had last year was that I am home. So wherever I am home. That's my roots. I am the roots. I am home, which means that no, I do not need to stay in the same career for 40 years. I do not need to stay in the same home and, make this space where my children return to forever and ever and ever, because that's the kind of dream that we're presented with, isn't it? I don't need to stay in a marriage that had become toxic. I don't need to do all of that. There is no what's the word? It's longevity. It's always given an honor, isn't it? And Till
Mm.
Swan's actually somebody that's talking about this quite a lot at the moment, is that longevity in a relationship, for example, is not a sign of success. We can have very successful relationships that are actually quite short, but they create so much growth within us and for each other that they are highly successful relationships. And I'm really experiencing this right now, and it's that realization. And it's almost like we know this, but we need reminding of this regularly, and we also need to know how to embody this ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as you're talking, Emma, I'm just really reflecting when I hear you describing how, we've been taught to stay in the same marriage, stay in the same house, stay in the same job, stay in the same town, it just makes me think and consider how hard it is to control women who break free of those constraints. Well, how hard it is to control all people. Of course, my work is mostly primarily with women, as is yours. And yeah, all of those constraints, they've been really good ways to control populations. They've been a
Yes.
really good way to keep power. But the time that we're living in right now, of course, is the breaking apart of all of those old structures, and the new structure of power is self responsibility and self-governance and self-awareness and self-knowledge, in order to become much more connected in a very real way. It's not to become very sort of isolated, independent on our own. It's actually part of realizing how deeply connected we all are to one another. And so what benefits you benefits me. When you rise, I rise. We are all part of the same incredible pool. And I think that's very much what I feel. You know, I'm listening to your podcast and you're talking about transformation, and I feel the ripples, and it buoys me through my own processes. And so we feel it all the time, don't we? But yeah, it's a really exciting time, I feel, to be alive. I mean, it's very challenging, and the pace of change is getting faster and faster and faster, which
Yeah.
is why we need these tools. It's like we're trying to like tool ourselves up and keep raising our energy and our awareness faster to kind of keep up with the natural pace of change. But it is very exciting.
It is, I agree. And as you were speaking, it's almost like the tower card came up for me from the tarot deck is we're in that stage of destruction or deconstruction, really, where I've talked about this before. And in fact, on the last episode with Jacinda, when we talked about radical self-love, it was very much that unlearning of everything, unlearning, deconstructing, taking it apart, and then rebuilding a version of myself, a version of my life. And you're so right that when we do that, that sisterhood part there is so important, because I know that when I rise, then the people around me rise. Like I see it in my daughter, for example. She is my what's the word, lighthouse, I suppose. She guides me, because what I'm seeing is that when I do this for myself, I see her, I literally witness her doing that as well. It's almost like I'm giving her that permission slip to be herself fully.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
we actually have conversations around this, around, she talks about her friends and her friendship groups, and what I'm noticing is the conversations there have shifted too, because she's now talking about her being herself fully. And then there's so much love and acceptance for her friends being their selves fully as well. And I think this is then, it's like that domino effect again, is if we're seeing that in this younger generation. I mean, she's 10 now, they're going to grow up to be have such a different view of the world than what I grew up with.
Yeah,
Those ideals that we got set, those standards that we got
yeah.
set, it's a different world for them. And that is so incredibly exciting. And I think this is why I've named my shop, my membership that I'm launching next year, is they're both called Wild Goddess Rising, because it is exactly that. I am so drawn to the wild woman archetype. And she has been my guiding light, I suppose, for the last 2 years, actually, I would say. She's the maverick, and she does it her own way, dances to the beat of her own drum. And it's so powerful when you can step into that. And like you're saying, she to me is the woman that you can't control or manipulate. And this is something that in my life personally, I am stepping out of and into myself, my own guidance.
Mhm.
So that it just feels like the most powerful move that I can make is to actually embody that part of myself. And that's what's created these big changes in my life. And in our coaching group that we're in together at the moment, I actually put a message on saying that I've had this shift literally in the last week or two. For a very long time, I was grieving, really heavily grieving and mourning the loss of my marriage, the loss of my family unit, the loss of my home, the loss of friendships, that just loss. I could see loss everywhere. And there's this shift that has happened, and I think there's something to be said, first of all, that you need to go through that, you need to experience that, you need to
Absolutely.
yeah, you need to feel the pain, you need to go through that mourning process. But what I've realized, the shift that's happened, is that actually it's almost like something's flipped. It's like a mirror, it's like a reflection. If this side is all the loss and the grief, what I'm stepping into now is that actually I haven't lost anything at all. All I've done is gained. I have gained my freedom. I've gained the ability to create a happy, joyful life that I want. I have gained a new home, which I love. I have gained amazing time with my children that I couldn't give them before. There's so much that I've actually gained, and it's like a mirror. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like, yes, there was this loss.
Mm.
But it wasn't really a loss. It was just everything falling away that was no longer bringing me joy or serving me in any way. In fact, it was the opposite. It was soul crushing. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
only way I can describe it. It was it was soul crushing. And what's actually happened is all of those things that made me lose myself and lose this sense of what brought me joy has just fallen away. So, yes, there's a loss, but actually, by that falling away, that's opened up this world of opportunity that, quite honestly, if you had said this to me 2 years ago, I would have gone, no, are you kidding? Are you trying, like, what? It's because our imaginations are limited. We can't, we can't always see,
Yeah.
what lies ahead for us. We can't imagine it because we can only imagine really the things that we've already experienced in part, because
Yes,
they're things we call on experiences, don't we?
absolutely.
So there's things that are waiting for us that we don't even know about, but what we need to do to get to that point is actually let the things that aren't bringing us joy fall away first.
Absolutely. It's so beautiful listening to you describe this, Emma, because you're describing perfectly the exact stages that you go through in a really healthy, positive, empowering transformation. And that grief process, that releasing and letting go process that you've described so vividly, is really important. And often we try to bypass that because it feels really painful. And everything is energy and energy is everything. So when you're feeling grief, immediately all grieves, every grief that you've experienced will come up. You know, the universe doesn't really discern
Mm.
between the grief of letting go some old knickers from your knicker drawer and that relationship that no longer serves you. You know, everything is just connected in terms of energy. And so I think it's really important, and it's part of the process that we go through in the True Style journey as well, is using that and harnessing that by doing very practical things of quite practically clearing out your wardrobe and just
Mm.
letting go of those things that no longer bring you joy, that no longer feel good, that no longer maybe even fit you, that no longer suit you, that no longer right for your lifestyle or for the body that you're in now, or and just letting them go, but not just like throwing them out, letting
Yeah.
them go, but letting them go with a process that helps you to receive the learnings from them
Yeah.
so that you can take that forwards. And that really helps lay a very fertile foundation for who you are now becoming. But you can't skip that process. You have to go through that because we need to create space for what is to
Yes.
come. And as you described, it feels sometimes like a cruel joke that we cannot see what's ahead, that we can't see 2 years ago how good things would be now and what you would have achieved and how life would look, what the life that you're now creating. But of course we can't. We're still in this human body and we can't just fry our nervous system. So we go at the pace that we can handle. And it's really important to honor your own pace, because your own pace is actually perfect. There is a real wisdom at work there. So never feel that, oh my God, this is dragging on, or I'm making a meal out of this, or I'm so slow, other people seem to be racing ahead of me. Your own pace is always perfect. We all have different things to release. And sometimes you think, oh, I'm releasing that marriage, or I'm releasing my home. But often we're releasing so much more.
Mm.
You can sometimes be releasing generations of trauma and loss and grief, some that you may not even be aware of. But I think we can always trust that when you do release and you're brave enough to go through that process, you heal so much more than just yourself. You heal back down your family line, and you heal forwards in your family line at the same time. So nothing is wasted. Everything is very alive and really special and really beautiful. It's a very productive process that you are going through, the process that you're describing. It's so productive.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, because actually what I think I'd become is a passive participant in my life, and things were just happening to me. That's the stage that I had got to, and it got to a point, my mental breakdown that I had, which was now, oh, it started COVID. Is that nearly 3 years ago now? It's, that kind of kick-started everything, was where I had become so passive in my own life. I got to breaking point, because I feel like you do have a capacity for things,
Yeah.
when things are bad and things are tough, and you have a capacity to, with what you can almost withstand. And there's like an honor in it again, isn't there, in that?
Yeah.
And I got to breaking point, and it got to the point where my body physically told me to stop, and I
Yeah.
had to stop. There was no other option. Like, my body made me stop, and that's when it all began. Everything came into review. And what you said about, like, releasing the house, for example, you're not just releasing a house, you're releasing so much more of that. And now I'm in the position now where I am actively choosing to not buy a house at the moment. I'm choosing to rent, because I want to maintain my freedom right now. I don't want to get tied back into that loop again. And this is something that I need to heal from myself before I can get to that point again. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm never going to buy a house again. Of course, I want to do that in the future. But right now, while I'm going through this process, I don't want that. The thing that I want to maintain is my feeling of freedom, my feeling of embracing change and loving different environments. So, and I love that. And what that's teaching my children as well, they love that too. And they've become, I can see this change in them, and how much they love experiencing this too. They love surprises as well. So I think sometimes children are so much more open to change, aren't they? And again,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like that's that wild woman energy in there, isn't it? That's
Yes.
that wild woman, where she moves about, she travels, she experiences. That's the key thing for me, is the experience in it. And it's so
Mm.
funny I was laughing to myself when you was talking about your underwear, because that's actually how it started for me.
Really?
Yes, I think we had a conversation, or it may have been on a call together, and I just was like, nope, I need to. Why have I got half a drawer full of underwear that I hate? I hate the feel of them. They're out of shape. I've had them for, like, I don't know, 10 years. What am I doing? Like,
Brilliant. I love
and
it. I
yet,
love it.
that's what it
It's actually
started
a
with.
really good place to
Yeah.
start. It's such a good place to start. When you're on that process of transformation, I often say, start small. People often think this feels so bad. I feel so lost. I feel like so much is going to have to change. And sometimes it does. Sometimes a lot needs to change. Sometimes you would be amazed at how little physically needs to change and how
Yeah.
much you've already got. But just doing something small and practical and tangible, like clearing out your underwear drawer, is a
Yeah.
really brilliant way to just start to create space for something better
And
to
I
emerge,
love that.
because it can't come
Yeah.
unless you create the space. It's like wanting to have a baby and just not understanding why the baby won't come because you're so busy and you're working crazy hours and it's a really stressful job, or like anything, why you haven't like found the perfect partner, but there's no space, there's no time. So just creating that
Mm,
space with intention is
yes.
so powerful. And I love, as you're describing the wild woman, I can see her, she's like dancing in front of my mind's eye. So that tells me, and I go, oh, the hairs are standing up on my body. So I'm an empath and an intuitive. So I feel the things as well. And then I'll get a visual that goes with it. That tells me that she's really close to full embodiment. She's really, if I can see her already, then she's really quite close. You're closing the gap quite beautifully and just following your instincts and doing what you're doing.
I love that, actually, what you're saying about closing the gap, because this is something that has been on my mind for the last few months. It's that gap, and that's where we feel icky. Isn't it?
Yes.
It's in
Oh, it's
that
very
moment that we
uncomfortable.
feel really icky, and that closing that gap. And to me, what I'm knowing and what I'm experiencing for me right now is that gap is the embodiment, is the
Yeah.
doing of all the things that I know. So it's almost like our mind can zoom ahead, but then the physical act of coming into our body, of clearing space, is that's where the gap closes. And
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
I'm noticing. And it's quite funny. I watched I often watch random reels and things like that, and there was one about it was about relationships. And it's like, if you're saying you want a new partner, and you want love and everything like that, have you actually cleared a space in your wardrobe for that new partner to come into your life?
Mhm.
And that suddenly was like, oh my god, that's so true. That clearing of space, how can we allow something to come in if that's already full, if there's no
Yeah,
physical space for a new partner, if you haven't, say, your house has built up with clutter and you're feeling like you can't get anything done. Well, if you haven't cleared the space, then of course you haven't got an environment to help you with that, to nurture that. And
yeah,
to me, that's so important, and that's such a big part of what you do. And I've heard you speak before about this lovely, the almost ritual, I suppose, you do when you clear things out, and it's like giving thanks to them,
yes,
thanks to that, for that part of you that served you for so long. Because I think a lot of this, it was almost like I was protecting myself for a really
yeah,
long time,
yeah.
so scared of the hurt, and so doubtful, because something you said actually at the beginning was about trust. And
Mm,
this is so true, and that's something that I feel that a lot of us lack, is that
mm,
trust in our own intuition, our trust in the process, our trust that something better will always come.
yeah,
And that's such a big piece. And I think to be able to trust fully into that, we also need to give thanks to all those parts of us that have been there to help
yeah.
us and protect us along the way as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I call that process wardrobe wisdom
Mm,
because there is so much wisdom in your wardrobe. There is so much energy in there of clothes that you have loved and worn, or clothes that you've bought, and maybe they've never even made it into rotation over years and they're still hanging there. And there are always messages there, particularly with pieces that I call sticky pieces, that you're not wearing them. You're never going to wear them. And yet they're still in your wardrobe. They still
mm.
seem to survive every cull or every hoist clearance. And if you've got one of those pieces, I mean, it is worth journaling on it, just looking at it and holding the piece and taking 20 minutes and just free writing and seeing what comes up, because I've had many like big breakthroughs just from that, like learning what is needed, what needs to be released, a change in behavior, a change in belief, all kinds of things. So I think really what I feel I'm often doing with true style, which is what I'm working with, is really trying to redefine how style works and the power of
Mm,
true style being the style that comes from within, not the style that you go and buy because it's
mm,
trendy or it's in the shops or it's in the magazines. Because there is so much depth in there, and it is such a powerful tool to redefine yourself, to catalyze that process of transformation. And really the biggest benefit of it is to come into alignment with yourself, because when you are in alignment with your true self, you catalyze everything that is for you. You catalyze the reason that you came here. You catalyze clarity on your purpose. You catalyze deep connections with the people that you're here for and they're here for you. You catalyze all of that by coming into that alignment. And often we get glimpses of it. I've been on a personal development path all of my adult life. And I will continue to be on it for all of my life. But so many times I've just got glimpses, or there's been so much talking about it, or meditating on it, or thinking about it, or having the odd conversation, or reading a great book, or doing a great course. But doing something tangible and practical, that I have found has created the biggest shifts. And it has really helped me to land and embody true change, especially self-change, changing who I am and my sense of self and my sense of identity and purpose, so much more powerfully than a lot of conversations and talk and reading and researching and learning and understanding. At the mental level, for me, and I think for many of us, we need something practical that we do anyway every day, like getting dressed. You know, most of us have to put on clothes every day. And if you're doing that in a way that really embodies your true self, that's why I call it true style.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It changes how you feel about yourself. It changes how you see yourself. It changes how other people see and perceive you. And it's often like this missing piece of the puzzle that people have been like doing all the work for years, and then they put this piece in and suddenly everything shifts. And that does not negate the importance of all the other work that they've done. That's just to say that for some of us, what we're missing is that tangible physical element of true style and embodiment. It can be really huge, really, really powerful.
I agree with you so much. We can get so caught up in our own minds. But until we actually take a physical step, an action to embody whatever it is that we've been processing, we've been working on, and that, like you say, that is all very, very valid. But to really initiate the change and to really step into who we truly are, we need to actually take an action. And, for me, that was a whole flood of actions all at once. So I wouldn't recommend that way. I
But
would
actually,
recommend.
for you, perfect, because we all have our own way, don't we?
Yes, I think that, if you're at that point maybe where you can feel these subtle changes, I would recommend taking it at a more gradual pace, at a slightly slower pace. And something that I really, really know, though, that through this journey, the biggest wake-up call that I got was that self-awareness. Understanding myself, understanding that I'm neurodivergent, also understanding quite recently that I'm going through perimenopause now, and all of these things that are
Welcome.
just well, all of these things that I before in that passive way of life I wouldn't have been able to see. And that
Yeah.
self-awareness. And it was interesting when you were talking about the wardrobe and these pieces. I was literally like, hands up, this is me. These pieces that are in my wardrobe that have either been there for ages because I get some kind of comfort from them, and they might be tatty, slightly ripped, those type of pieces, they're in there because they're
Yeah.
like a home comfort. And there's
Yeah.
also pieces that have been in there that have still got the labels on that I have literally never worn. And the thing that came to mind when you said that was, I think for me, those pieces represent a version of myself that I wanted to be.
Yes.
But clearly that wasn't actually in alignment with who I really am. So it's like that kind of shiny object. You see these other people and they look amazing and they have such confidence and they're successful. And it's like, I want to be like them. I want to
Yeah.
feel that. So then and I think this like fashion trends. I think this is what I get from that as well. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're those shiny people over there that have everything together. And I want to step into that myself, but I never wear them because they're not authentically me. They're not
Yeah.
truly who I am. They're a version. They stay there though because they're really beautiful and they're
Yeah.
amazing, but they're just not me. And so when you're saying about releasing them, and this is something that I am going to try and do now this weekend because I've just realized this myself, it's like in that releasing them, I get to release that idea of who I should be, who I want to be, that, but that isn't truly me.
Yeah.
And therefore, that means that's one step closer to me really, truly embracing myself again. And I'm finding this, it's almost like all these incremental steps in
Absolutely.
embracing who you are.
Every single step is so important. It's so fantastic. And I think most of us will relate to what you've just said, Emma. I've done it as well. It's an indicator of just how potent image is. If we see someone in the media that we feel in alignment with, or they spark something in us, or we resonate with in some way, it's easy to look at them and think, oh, maybe if I dress like she does, or wear that lipstick, or buy that top, or maybe I'll do my own branding shoot and I'll kind of take my inspiration from her. I'll dress in that way. It's so easy to do that. And there is real value in all of that inspiration. And it is not to go and copy it, because
Yeah.
you are unique. And your true style that comes from within, that expresses who you are, is unique. Your coloring is unique. Your body shape and your proportions are unique. Your lifestyle is unique. There's so many elements that are part of true style that deserve the awareness to create a style that really expresses who you are in a way that looks amazing, makes you feel good and feel expressed, and that really connects with other people. That's what true style is. I mean, I'm always like biting my lip when I hear people going, oh, I'm going to do a personal branding shoot. I've just got a photographer and I'm not going to have a stylist, or I'm not going to do the true style process. And I'm always thinking, oh, and it'll probably be a good step forwards. You have to trust everything's a good step forwards. But I'm always like, oh, but the missed opportunity to really shine yourself, not the other
Mm.
shiny things of how someone else does it, but to really connect into and clarify and build a very strong, very coherent vision of your true style that you then get to shine. And it feels so good when you do that. That feels very much that sense of coming home that you describe, when you realize that home is within you. And I think it's part of one of those things that makes us so much braver to let go of more things, more external structures in our lives, traveling through this period of change that we're all in, is that feeling of home within us. And if you can find ways to really embody who you really are through your style and make that very real for yourself right here against your skin every day, who you see in the mirror, it's really, really powerful. And there's nobody better than you. There's no point wasting your time trying to be
Mm.
anyone else or aspire to be anyone else. No matter how much inspiration we get, there's nothing better than yourself. You are the real deal.
Yeah, I agree with you so much. And the whole point of this podcast, or one of the main points of this podcast, is about pleasure and joy. And to me, when you are in your true style and you're embodying who you truly are, that is going to give you such a huge sense of pleasure. And this is something that I witness. I witness this when I run my photo shoots. I witness this whether I'm running my love portrait photo shoots, where it's all about them, the love, the connection, the joy. And when I'm doing personal brand, and often when I'm doing setting up a personal brand photo shoot, this is kind of the question that I get asked, oh, what should I wear? Now, I can't answer that question for them. So what I'll often do is talk to them and have a conversation, and we'll have that conversation. Okay, well, tell me about the things you like, tell me about your business, explain it to me. And all the way through, when they're just talking about their passion and their joy, I'm making notes. And basically it's a process of me listening to what they want and then feeding back, right, this is you, this is what you're telling me. You love warmth, you like lights, you're attracted to nature, you have a nurturing approach to your business. This is how you need to be styled. You need to bring this, you need to bring yourself to it. And every time when a client shows up like that, whether it is, like I say, a personal one, a love portrait one, with their other half, with their family, by themselves in like a boudoir type thing, Or it's a business, a personal brand shoot. When they show up like that, oh my
Mm.
gosh, the images are immensely beautiful. Like I love that part of my job. Absolutely love that part of my job when you actually physically get to see it
Yeah.
and create it into a piece of art. And what it does then for those clients that then show up like that, they are taken back by their own beauty, by the way they look. The most common feedback that I get is, I can't believe I look like that. I can't, you must have done loads of work to the images. And I swear to you, I obviously turn them into beautiful professional images, but I am not the photographer that will go through and kind of, those photographers that will suck everything in and all. No, no, no. It is you. This is the real you. I'm just
Yeah.
helping you to see the real you. And
Yeah.
that is exact feedback every single time. I can't believe I look like that. And
Yeah.
yet all they've done is shown up as them.
Oh my goodness. And what you're saying about connecting somebody to what they have that they already really love, to what they naturally are really drawn to is it's such good advice. I mean, it's a really key piece of advice to just something you can do straight away to connect and feel better in yourself and in your appearance is just going inside your wardrobe and seeing, what do you absolutely love? Forget about what you
Mm,
think you should look like or what you should wear or what's trendy or what's out of date now or whatever. What is in there that just, you'll never get rid of it? You love it. It always
yeah.
makes your heart sing. Identifying those pieces and connecting in, it's not just a way to feel good and wear them and look good in the moment, but to really notice what is true to you, what's really resonant to you, what does it look like, what are the colors, what are the shapes, what are the memories attached to it, how does it make you feel, why does it make you feel that way? You'll get so much clarity from
Mm,
one item of clothing or jewelry that you love that much that will tell you a lot about your
yeah.
true style.
Yeah, I agree with you so much. And that is the biggest thing that I say over and over again to the question, what shall I wear? What do you feel good in? Like, it's like, wear what you feel good in, because
Yeah,
if you are uncomfortable, you will see it in every part of your body. You will see it
yeah,
in your shoulders, in your face, in your jaw. And
absolutely.
so feeling good, feeling
Oh,
that joy, feeling that pleasure, that's it, right? That is the
yeah,
forefront of everything that we both do, that we both
yeah,
offer. is that is
absolutely.
it right there. This is the whole point. And you will see that you feel so much more confident about
Yeah,
yourself. You feel the joy and pleasure. And I have to say, there's something different when you look and feel good.
oh yeah,
It's like your head's just that little bit higher, your back's that little bit straighter, the way you walk. Because I find when I'm kind of almost when I'm feeling shitty, basically, to be honest, when I'm feeling shitty, and like I said to you, I've had periods where I have just been living in my jogging bottoms for 2 weeks straight and get really annoyed because I have to keep washing them because that's all I want to wear. But everything about me slumps. My shoulders
yeah,
slump, my head's low, my the way I walk, the way I show up, the way I have conversations, it's completely different. It's like
yes,
I'm this muted down version of myself. And it
yeah,
makes me sad. And all I ever feel when I'm in periods like that is sadness.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
almost like, even though something good might be going on, I can see that it's good. I appreciate that
mm,
it's good, but I can't feel it in my body.
yes, yeah,
And that's the difference there is when you show up for yourself. This is a huge part of radical self-love.
yeah,
Showing up for yourself in this way, making yourself feel good with the things you put on your body. And that could even,
mm,
we're talking about clothing here, jewelry, anything that just, like the way you do your hair as well. This is all such a big part of it. You show up differently in your life, and you show up
absolutely.
differently for people. You show up differently for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I really, really resonate with that. I see it all the time that when you don't feel good, even if you actually look good, even if somebody else put you in an outfit and went, "Oh, you look amazing," if
Mm,
if you felt like this is just not me, you will not feel confident, and you will be so focused in on how you feel and not feeling good in yourself, that your energy does shrink back inside your body. You're less likely to say yes to an invite, you're less likely to show up, you're less likely to start a podcast or go live or create something new or share your creativity with other people. You literally shrink back from life. And it's one of the key reasons that I'm so passionate about the True Style journey and sharing it with more women, is that we need more women showing up, especially and precisely at the points in life when you often feel like shrinking back, like perimenopause is a really classic example,
Yeah.
coming into that time when externally everything is saying, oh, you're coming to the end, you're washed up, you're going to be invisible, you're irrelevant, your body's changing, your hair's changing, your skin's changing. And it's actually a time of women really coming into their power and really understanding the purpose of the journey they've taken in life and being able to contribute on a much wider scale to their communities. It's actually it's an amazing rite of passage, but we've lost it. But if you can embody that power through your true style, how much easier it is to keep going and go, this isn't the end. This is just the start of a new chapter. Oh my God, I get to write the chapter. This is so thrilling. It's actually really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that completely, because this is my first response was this again, this grief, this
Yeah.
mourning over that. What does that mean about me? That's the question that came to mind. It's like, what does that mean about me? And it was suddenly thinking, oh well, I'm not. I am well and truly done with children. I am complete in that way. But suddenly the realization that that option was taken, like going to be
Yeah.
taken away from me, and this mourning period of like this is a change that another change that I'm now going to be processing and going through. And that my instant response was utter grief. I couldn't stop crying for about a week actually.
Yeah.
um and
That's brilliant, though. That's
yeah.
great.
And it
It's part of
is,
the process.
yeah, the releasing of that. And it was like I had to feel that first. I
Mm.
had to feel that loss first. I had to feel that grief first. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, no, you're right. Now I get to use this as part of me. My body shape is changing. Again, this is why another wardrobe cleanse is on the horizon and things like that. And it's embracing it. Okay. But I look at my body now and it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not how I was in my 20s or at the start of my 30s, but now I'm actually very, very strong.
Mm.
The practices that I take up, this is something that I wasn't before. And it's just, these little, it's like that set shift. Like I said before, it's like looking at it with the mirror. Okay, there's that grief and that feeling of loss. But then look at the flip side of it. What am I actually gaining here? And I have to say, I'm extremely excited about not having any periods. I am so looking forward to getting to that point.
Oh my goodness. It's so lovely just sharing about these processes and transformations. I really love it. I love, listening to you as you share about them yourself. Obviously, I'm in that process. I'm in perimenopause myself as well. And there is so much grief, and that's really normal. There's so many lives and experiences that we won't have been able to have, especially if we're like super excitable and want to do everything. There's always going to be things that we didn't get to do and that we have to accept we're probably not going to do now, and let them go. And I think it's good to be able to trust that process and
Yeah.
allow the grief and allow and give ourselves some time and let yourself wear the tracksuit pants for a couple of weeks and whatever old fleece. It's when you get stuck that there's a problem. It's when it carries on too long. But we're all allowed to have those times. They're really purposeful. But then it's lovely being around other women, because it buoys you for whenever you lose perspective, there will be other women that can hold perspective for you. And
Yeah.
you cycle together and they pick you up when you're down and you pick them up when they're down. And I think that's why the sisterhood and communication is just so important when we take these journeys, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
it's actually all good. It's happening for us and
Yes.
through us. But it's way more fun when you are in some kind of sisterhood community. I'm very grateful for the one that we are in together. I think it's super exciting, the community that you're opening up in the new year. It's going to be incredible. And I'm really excited as well for opening the next True Style journey in the new year too, because we need these spaces, don't we, where we can
Mm.
come and unfold and turn inwards and gently redefine ourselves and get curious and excited about the next chapter.
Yeah, I agree so much. And the sisterhood, it just is essential. It's so essential.
Yeah.
This is it, you are more than capable. Anybody is more than capable of doing this alone. But to have that sisterhood there, it is so much easier. You get to do it with so much more ease, so much more joy. You get to laugh about these parts of it that otherwise we would be crying about, and you get
Absolutely,
to go
absolutely.
through it together. And the one thing that I am absolutely certain of, there has been so many life experiences that have taught me this lesson, is that absolutely everything happens exactly as and when it should be happening. And that is
Yeah.
the one thing that I know for certain. I have experienced it time and time and time again. So whatever change, transition, whatever thing feels really hard right now, it is
Yeah.
exactly what you are supposed to be experiencing right now. So
Yeah.
I know that for certainty. Leesa, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. This has been such a beautiful conversation, and I myself have got so much for it. So I know that our listeners are going to get a huge amount of value from our conversation today. Is there anything that you would like to kind of end with? Perhaps a tip, maybe to help people really feel good about themselves, and or to help them step into yourself themselves, that you would like to share?
Yeah, I'll share one. There's a really quick little 1 minute exercise that I share in the True Style journey. It's called Kind Eyes. And that is basically to just look in a mirror. A little compact mirror is great for 1 minute every day with kind eyes. And if you realize that you're not looking at yourself with kindness and that inner critic kicks in, which often happens, just look away and recompose yourself and come back to hold your own gaze whenever you can look with kindness. And it's just a very simple, very practical, but can be surprisingly challenging
Yeah.
exercise, especially when you're going through change and transformation. We can become very self-critical and we can speak quite harshly to ourselves. And it's really important. Practices like this will weed that inner critic out and bring it just into the daylight. We're not going to get rid of it, but it just brings it to the surface and into the light so that we can integrate it in a more helpful and empowering way and really cultivate a much kinder, more compassionate voice. Because when you are critical, when you're experiencing shame, you actually shut down the growth and learning centers in your brain. And you really need those when you're going through change. You really need them to be switched on. And the way to switch them on is self-love, self-compassion. So that is one little quick 1 minute exercise I would recommend. If you just do that every day, things will start to shift. You will start to feel more curious. You'll start to feel more opportunity. You'll start to feel better. You'll start to see how beautiful you actually are. You'll start to connect with the depth of your true beauty, and it will just start to shift. Just be 1 minute a day.
I love that. I really, really love that. And it's, as you were saying that, I was thinking I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to make the vow to myself that I'm going to be doing this. And actually something that came to mind is that I'm going to be doing this no matter what I'm feeling. And so even if that means I'm looking at myself with tears in my eyes and, or just woken up or not very well or done up and ready for the day,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it all. And
Yeah, I love
so
that.
that I can actively report back on how effective such a simple thing to do is.
Yay.
So thank you so much for that. Leesa, I know that a lot of people are going to want to find you and, even work with you. I know you're starting your True Style journey in February next year. So I'm sure you're going to be sharing lots about that. So where can we find you, Leesa?
The best place to find me is on Instagram at Leesa Whisker. Leesa is spelled with two E's, and Whisker is spelled like a cat, WH. Um,
Perfect.
yeah, that's the best place to find me, or go to the website, which is just leesawhisker.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for this conversation. It has been absolutely beautiful. And of course, I'm hoping by now you all know where to find me, but it's at Joyous Misfit on Instagram. Come and find me. If you want to know a little bit more about everything that's coming up, including the membership, the Wild Goddess Rising membership in January, hit the link in the bio. There's a wait list because I'm going to be doing a bit of a build up towards it. So I'm very, very excited. We're going to have a launch party for that. But if you're listening to this in the future, then it should already be up and running. So just come to at Joyous Misfit and you will find me. And I would also really, really love to continue this conversation. I know a lot of what I put out, a lot of what Leesa puts out is about this. So come find us, come and talk to us. The pair of us, as you can probably tell, really enjoy talking about this. We are passionate about what we do. So please come seek us out. And Leesa, I really hope to speak to you again in 2023. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more on your page with everything you do. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much. It's been really gorgeous to chat. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.